taking a look at editorials and question bank in this video for 21st October 2016. The two editorials in the Hindu newspaper today. First one, shifting the GST goalpost. This is regarding the GST Council meeting which happened recently, which we have discussed in news sections yesterday. That in this no consensus came up and the meeting had to be wrapped up. There is another meeting scheduled for November, actually two meetings. GST Council. Now what is this GST Council? It comprises of all state finance ministers and is chaired by the Central Union Finance Minister, Mr. Arun Jaitley. So this is the structure of the GST Council too. The function is to take a call on rates, exemption list and threshold limits. So what should be the GST taxation rates, what items need to be exempted, what should be the threshold level, when should GST be applicable. So all that is to be decided by GST Council, and the voting is 1/3 votes are with the center and states get 2/3 votes, and each state big or small gets same equal vote, and for any decision to be finalized, to be passed, it requires 75% positive votes and at least 50% attendance. So that is the GST Council. Here you can see 1/3 voting power, 2/3 with states, minimum quorum 50% and 75%, 3/4 members should agree. The GST Council in its earlier meetings had come on a consensus on also the threshold limit of what companies would be put under GST regime. So 10 lakh was the threshold decided in general. For northeastern states, a concession was given. It was 5 lakh annual turnover of a company, so that it falls under GST ambit. And for 10 lakh to 50 lakh annual turnover companies, there is a lesser rate of GST. So that is concessions are also there. So this all was also finalized at the GST Council without much problem, with unanimity. But now on deciding on compensation to be given to the states if they suffer losses in the first 5 years due to switch over to GST regime, and then also about the taxation rates under the GST for various commodities. The center had given a complete slab. We have discussed this in news. Please refer that too. So GST slabs which have been decided, they are not accepted by the states. So now they have ended the GST Council meeting, and future meetings hopefully will be finalizing all these aspects so that the 1st April 2017 deadline for implementing GST can be adhered to. That is the central government's goal. So we'll see what happens in future sessions also. The issue which the state also raised was about the environment cess, which has been retained by the central government in the proposals which were discussed now. Earlier it had said that all cesses will be eliminated. So it has eliminated many cesses, but environment cess remains, and this will be used to compensate the states when they suffer losses. So this issue has been a bone of contention and states are contesting this environment cess. So this is regarding the GST Council. We saw this, the quorum and everything. This is regarding the threshold limit, the 10 lakh limit except for northeastern states, annual turnover of a company on which GST would be applicable, and 5 lakh for northeastern states, 10 to 5 lakh concessional GST rates would be there. Earlier the thresholds of existing tax systems which are there are shown alongside. Then this is the GST of it, the whole thing. So what services would become costlier? What services are expected to become cheaper? What would be long-term effect? It would result in ease of doing business. It will reduce logistic costs. It will actually result in benefits for both sides. For the government will also have better tax collections, as well as people will also face lower incidence of taxes. So it's beneficial for all. So this is all shown here. Then the next editorial in the Hindu newspaper is about debating the bitter end. So this is regarding the US presidential debates. So this is actually not of relevance for us. The only points which it makes are the challenges which the new president who comes to power will face because of the medical and social security issues which raise the government presently, the women's reproductive rights issues in USA, the immigration border control issues, the issue of unemployment, job creation should be there, foreign policy issues. So those are highlighted. That is it. Now we go to the question bank, the articles on lead and perspective page. For today we have picked up all 4 articles, the lead article as well as the remaining 3 articles and framed questions. The first question, The issue of triple talaq is being debated in India. What is the stand of prominent Islamic countries on triple talaq? What has been the judicial pronouncements on triple talaq in India so far? Discuss. So again, triple talaq, talaq-e-bidat, in which in one go, talaq being pronounced thrice, talaq, 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 does not result in irrevocable talaq. So that is to be considered as a single talaq with time for conciliation being given. So triple talaq actually means that between, it should be 3 talaqs, and between each talaq there will be a 90-day time frame given when conciliation should take place. Genuine conciliation between the husband and wife, and only if no conciliation is possible and then another talaq being occurring, and then after again a 90-day conciliation, third talaq occurring, will result in final talaq, which is irrevocable. So that is the actual way of talaq. Talaq-e-bidat has been declared illegal in many Islamic countries across the globe. Even Pakistan does not approve of that. Even in Pakistan, a divorce has to be approved by a special court being set up. So these are the cases highlighted in the article which show that even India needs to go ahead on this reform. So it says that as early as in the 13th century, a scholar, an Islamic scholar, Ibn Taymiyyah, had declared that triple talaq at one sitting shall be counted as one and hence revocable. So it is about laws in various countries. In Turkey, 1926 itself, the judicial control over religion has been put forth. So even talaq related, divorce related cases go before the courts. In Egypt also, triple talaq in one sitting has been declared revocable as desired. In Syria in 1953, again they have also declared every talaq there should be time for conciliation, then finally the third talaq is irrevocable. In Iraq also, divorce cannot be effected unless it is approved by a government run personal status court. In Algeria also there is this same provision, a court approves it, and the reconciliation period of 90 days is essential. So that is there. In Pakistan also, a 7-member commission was set up in 1956 which suggested that divorce could not take effect till a matrimonial court dissolves the marriage. So even in Pakistan, the court looks into the matter. So those aspects are there. Tunisia, again, it shows that divorce is possible only through courts. So this is the divorce laws in internationally in Islamic countries, and judicial pronouncements in India so far. In 1971, judge of Kerala High Court spoke about these personal laws in India which have been framed during colonial era, and these laws have been understood by the Britishers and interpreted and framed out. So it says that the whole Quran expressly forbids a man to seek pretext for divorce with his wife, so long as she remains faithful and obedient to him. So it is inherently built in that you cannot take talaq on frivolous grounds. So in the absence of serious reasons, no man can justify a divorce in the eye of religion or law. So that was the ground in 1971. Then another case in Kerala in 1972, the judge said that husbands do not have unbridled power to pronounce talaq unilaterally, and they can be corrected by law. So these pronouncements are also there. Again in 1981, the talaq in the Holy Quran, it has been said that a reasonable cause is essential. Without giving a reasonable cause, talaq cannot take place. So an arbiter has to be there. Reconciliation with the help of 2 arbiters, one from the husband side and one from the wife's side, is also essential as per the religious laws and should be adhered to. So all such provisions are already there and they have to be adhered to, is what the judicial interpretation has been so far on this matter. Then another case which is highlighted is 2002 case, in which a claim for divorce by triple talaq through a written statement was rejected. In 2001 case, again the same problem with the Rajiv Gandhi's initiative, the Shah Banu case judgment being rejected, and the Muslim Women Protection of Rights and Divorce Act 1986 being passed, which we have discussed earlier in another question bank too. So that was on 3rd October, I suppose. So this also has been contested, and the judiciary has passed a judgment which overcomes the drawbacks of this act also, because the act says that the husband is liable to give compensation to the wife only during the period of iddah. So iddah is the period which the wife observes after divorce or after the death of the husband. That is generally 3 menstrual periods, or if she is pregnant then it goes till the pregnancy and post 3 3 months after that. So that period is actually the time frame when compensation is liable on the husband as per this Act of 1986. So the judiciary said that okay, the act is valid. The period will be the time when the husband will provide compensation to the wife, but this compensation should be there not for only for that period, for the entire maintenance which she has to give has to be given within this time frame. So that has been the judicial interpretation too. So judiciary is known to have its innovations. So it has done in this case too. So judiciary has also been pro women's rights. So for the present matter, the way ahead is that triple talaq in a single pronouncement is invalid. That should be clearly maintained in our laws. There is a need to abolish triple talaq in a single sitting. That is called talaq-e-bidda. Second point is that talaq has to be tested on its reasonableness and parties should undertake compulsory conciliation. So that is also inherent in the religion also and should be put in by law. And the third part is that any personal law can be tested on its constitutionality, on whether it adheres to fundamental rights or abrogates them. So there should be no questioning this aspect. Personal laws also are liable to questioning by judiciary. So that is the way ahead too. So let's see how does it go ahead, what the Supreme Court is looking into the matter, and let's see what the judgment will be. So that is about the first question. The second question is, cross LOC trade completes 8 years in 2016. Discuss its significance and further measures to enhance it. So this is about cross LOC trade between Jammu and Kashmir and Pakistan occupied Kashmir. So how cross LOC trade, which started in 8 years ago, has flourished, and there are needs for enhancing and strengthening it. And even today, when there are surgical strikes and strike across the LOC and cross-border firings, the cross LOC trade still continues. There has been no restriction on it, and this needs to be enhanced to bring people to people contact and communication, and then they will serve as a harbinger of peace. So that's the whole point. So this was started in 2003, the history of LOC, you can see trade. The ceasefire in 2003 resulted in cross LOC travel starting in 2005, and finally in 2008 even cross LOC trade started. So people movement started and then trade movement also started. So we have had many confidence building measures, but this has been the best confidence building measure so far on the issue of Kashmir between India and Pakistan. So the benefits of cross border trade also we can see. It allows, it's minimal, it allows exchange in barter based on zero tariff, no tariffs are there. It's a 4-day-a-week trade, and only 100 packs are allowed to be exchanged per day, per trade day. So that is the idea. The benefits have been many. Even while we are discussing MFN status to be withdrawn from Pakistan, there are economic sanctions to be put in. There are many benefits of this cross LOC trade. It has given employment opportunities to the youths on both the sides too, and improved relations. So people to people contact also increases. The requirements to further enhance its trade will be increasing the number of vehicles, 100 is too less, augmenting the type of tradable commodities, more commodities can be put in which can be allowed through cross-border trade. Cross LOC tourism should be enhanced, more stakeholder engagement is required, trade facilitation meetings should take place regularly to ensure trade flourishes, LOC mandis can be set up in big cities to highlight this and promote cross LOC trade. There should be production and manufacturing units set up in Jammu and Kashmir to further enhance and have this trade flourishing. So those are the suggestions given. So, and that's what it says, that this is the view. Kashmir should not be seen as a subject of contention, but should be seen as a subject of economic interest. Economy flourishes, violence will stay on bay. So that is the point. Then the next 2 questions we'll have to discuss in a different video. So that is it for this video. Thank you.